This is Charlie Baker, and you're listening to Paying
following
Attention.
was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question?
Sorry, I'm a little behind.
No stress.
Boy, am I going off today. Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. You have no idea.
Someone's upset Tom.
In a big way.
Ooh, you're gonna get it.
Been paying attention when you were busy slamming the door.
Like one more minute.
I guess the things that pass for affection.
Why won't this work?
Same as they were before. There must have been something in all of that nothing that dropped me like a stone to the floor. And I must have missed something when you were just slamming the door. Oh, I don't mind just a little. It's driving me out of my mind.
I'm getting so good at that.
I know you are. I was going to have the chief do the ba-ba-bas, but...
Something that's hollow, I can climb inside. It's a lifetime
Movie of the week.
starring you and I.
Here they come. Everybody.
Alrighty. Shall we start the show?
If you want.
I think we're good. I'm even sharing this on the Haverhill 411 Facebook page. I love those guys. Or gals, I should say, because my friend Dee runs it.
There you go.
Hi, how you guys doing? My name is Tom Duggan here at the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi atop Two Guys Smoke Shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Got a great show for you today. I've got the retired Haverhill Police Chief Alan DeNaro. He's been here a number of times. And, you know, he's not really very shy. So when I found out that he was retiring, I said, boy, he's never really been shy when he was chief. I bet he's got a lot of things he can say now that he's no longer chief. This is the time to get him on. This is the time. His mic's not on.
Well, that's, I didn't know we were introducing him yet. All
Oh,
right.
sorry, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, I was saying I'm not retired till June 30th.
Oh, so you're technically still on the
I
job.
am still on the job.
But you can still say stuff.
I'm out of work.
Right, so you can still say stuff.
We'll see.
Oh, okay, right, fair enough. Before we get to him, I do have one thing that I want to pass along to you because, boy, am I pissed off today. So I was on my way to the post office in North Andover on Main Street today, and I went to fill the newspaper box with the new Valley Patriot, which is out on the streets as we speak. It's being delivered, but some places aren't being delivered like the post office on Main Street in North Andover because the new owner of the new building of the post office building in North Andover decided he didn't like the Valley Patriot news box being on the sidewalk in front of his building, as if he has a frickin' say. It's on a public sidewalk. He stole my box, he stole the real estate box, and he also stole the box for the Boston Broadside.
Huh.
So I am filing a police report this afternoon. I've already lodged a complaint with the town manager. And while we were sitting here, I tried to Google to find out who this guy is because I want to call him up and yell at him myself. Because having the cops do it is fun, but it's more fun when I get to do it. I don't get to yell at people that much anymore, so this is going to be... So I'm looking on Google and I can't find it. There's all these real estate pages you have to pay to get the person's name and address. And then I thought, hey, wait a minute. The Valley Patriot has a real estate section every month with all the real estate transactions. So I pulled up the Valley Patriot on my computer, typed in 131 Main Street. Wouldn't you know it? It's right there in the Valley Patriot. What a handy thing to have around.
Isn't it?
So it is the 129 Main Street Realty Trust is the owner of the building. Oh. And so after the show, I will be looking up and researching who actually owns 129 Main Street Realty Trust to find out who it was that made the decision. I went into the post office and said, you know what happened to my box? And they said the new owner didn't want them there, so he took them. So even though I can't walk that good, I drove around the back of the building, got out of my car, and walked around the dumpster that they had to see if it was there. No, he didn't want to put it there because someone like me might take it and put it back. They actually threw it on a truck and threw it away. So the other thing I'm doing today is I'm driving to the dump to see if that's where he put it, because I'm sure he's got a permit for the dump. Huh. So whoever that person is, I don't know who he is. He's about to find out who I am, though.
I bet.
And this is a situation that I've run into over 17 years, maybe 4 or 5 times, where somebody's so friggin' arrogant. They buy a new business, they lease a new business, they see newspaper boxes outside, and they decide we don't want that there, and they just take it as if it's there, as if they have the right to do that.
And just for the record, these boxes are your personal property, is
right.
that correct?
Yeah, it's property of the Valley Patriot.
Of course.
Here's the funny part. Here's the best part. He might have had a defensible position, except he left the Eagle Tribune box. Oh, so I'm looking, my box is gone, the broadside is gone, the real estate box is gone, but the Eagle Tribune box is cleaned off and nice and clean, and it's pushed over onto the side.
And that's the one out of all of those that you have to pay for.
Right.
I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
Exactly. Like he thought maybe that might be somebody's real property as opposed to my box that has newspapers in it every day.
Right.
So you can look forward to that. I know most people don't really care about it, but I know you guys love it when I get pissed off.
Yeah.
So we'll be giving you some updates on that on Facebook later on today. The other one thing that I wanted to mention is I got a letter in the mail yesterday from the National Republican Party. Please come back. Please, we beg you to please come back. We have to stop the Democrats. They're socialists. Please come back. Never. If you're somebody who's running the Republican Party in any state, I will never, ever, ever come back to the Republican Party, and I will never, ever, ever give you guys another frickin' dime, ever. Because you run on fiscal responsibility, and then when you get in, you stick it up the taxpayers' rear ends, and you spend and spend and borrow and spend. And I'm going to go back to what really flipped me on the Republican Party, then we're going to get to my guest. Late last year, the Republican Party had a chance to vote to give $1,200 or $2,000 in COVID relief to individuals in this country, to everybody here, right? Mm-hmm. And they voted no. Why did they vote no? Because we're fiscal responsible. We're fiscal conservatives. We have to worry about the bill that our grandchildren are going to be bearing in another generation or two. We can't spend this. It's just too much. And then in the next friggin' breath, they voted to send billions and billions of dollars to Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and Jordan and Egypt and South Africa and every other friggin' country in the world. So you're fiscally responsible when it comes time to taking care of your own people, Republicans. But when it comes time to sending money to other countries who, by the way, hate us and take the money and put it in their pockets, and you don't monitor the money that they're getting, that was it for me. I'm done with the Republican Party. You're never getting another dime out of me. Never. After what the party did to Donald Trump, like him or not, he was a Republican. After what the party did to Donald Trump, I was pissed off enough. But then when they turned around and they pulled that move, screw the American taxpayer while we're giving money to citizens of other countries, I'm done with you guys. Stop sending me mail. Stop calling me on the phone. I love Jim Lyons. He's president of the Mass Republican GOP. If he runs an event, I will give him money for a specific candidate, but I'm not giving money to the party anymore. I'm done. So you can cross me off all your lists, folks, because as bad as the Democrats are, I've determined the Republicans really aren't all that much better. So how's that for an open for the show?
Fantastic.
You got me riled up, and that's what you...
Hey, I didn't do it. I didn't throw away your newspaper box.
Sitting with me today, I'm so glad to have him here because he was never shy when he was not retired or didn't put in for retirement. I just learned a few seconds ago he's technically still on the job, but he has put in for his retirement. It's all been accepted and all that stuff, right? So he's never been shy. I've asked him a couple of questions about the mayor that never really got along all that well. And he always gave us some really explosive quotes, which I love. So today, now that he's on his way out the door, he's got nothing to lose. I'm looking for a good show, Chief.
So it's a show about the mayor?
Well, no, it's a show about all the stuff that you couldn't say when you were chief. It doesn't have to be the mayor. It could be the council. It could be anything else you want to talk about. Yeah. Before we do, though, you've been the chief. You've been a police officer now for 44 years. You said
44.
Before we get into like all the other stuff, you've seen a serious transformation in policing since you started to the current Black Lives Matter debacle that we have ourselves in today with policing. Can you talk about those changes, how it was when you started, how it morphed into what it is today?
Well, obviously things always progress through time. I mean, it happens with everything, but police work is changed so much from 1977 when I went to the police academy to now, that it's totally night and day. And, a lot of it has been thrown upon police. Mental health has been thrown on us. We have to be mental health experts. Drug abuse, we have to be drug abuse experts.
Mom and dad.
Domestic violence counselors. We have to coach children, that are having problems. And a lot of these things were not necessarily in our toolkit, but we've had to adapt and evolve to incorporate those and be successful at them. One of the things that came out of the protests over the last year or two was the fact that there may be a better way to deal with the mental health issues. Bring a professional in, a clinician, to work with police and handle those. And I took a captain and lieutenant of mine down, and we went down to look at how they're doing it at the Orange County Sheriff's Office in Florida. Met with the major that runs the unit, the sergeant in charge of the unit, the clinicians and the officers. We even rode with them. And we brought back a phenomenal plan of what they do, and we have mirrored that. We've gone so far as to incorporate a training component in our plan that even got the attention of, I believe, Haverhill Police, where they run a program out of there who never had a training program, and they had called us and said, we'd like to sit in on the training program, which, of course, we're going to let them do because there's no secrets in police work when it comes to that.
What is the benefit of that? Because in the old days, someone had a mental health issue, they were being violent, you put the cuffs on him, you wrestle him to the ground, you put the cuffs on him, you bring him to court, let the judge decide if he needs to go for psychological counseling or not. Now you've got to bring like a babysitter with you guys, and you've got to kind of like let them do their thing, I guess, when you find someone.
Well, what happens is that you got to remember when officers have to deal with these issues, they could be tied up for 6 hours or more. So by having somebody else come in, and when you say violent, a lot of times they're agitated, they're at a heightened state, they're not thinking clearly. Who better to talk them down than a clinician or a professional that's their wheelhouse. They have a master's degree in that. That's what they do. So we're just basically, in our view, and from what we've seen, is that this is a big jump in how we help people that have those problems. We also had 2 high-profile cases. We had the mentally ill kid who stabbed a woman in the eye up, I think, off of Crystal Street or Lake Street a few months back, and then we had another guy on Winter Street stab another guy to death. Both of them were frequent people that we dealt with mental illness, but nobody was really kind of coaching them, helping them, getting them into programs, making sure things are okay. This program will let us do that. I think I was talked about it in front of council between say January 1st and the end of March, we had over 300 mental illness cases in Haverhill alone. 300. So,
do we know, is that an increase or decrease? Did you track the numbers before that? Or
I didn't check the numbers before that, and I would have to tell you that from my tenure here, that's a steady number. It's not like all of a sudden we're seeing mental health issues. Right. It's something we deal with all the time, but we've had to deal with it.
Why do you think so many people are so nuts? I remember when I was growing up, like maybe 1/3 or 20% of the population of people, you talk to them and that they've got a mental health issue when you talk to them. Today it seems like 20% of the people out there are normal. Like, what do you think? 44 years of experience, you're an expert in human behavior because you live, breathe, eat, and sleep dealing with and reacting to human behavior.
Well, I don't know that I would classify myself as an expert, but I know that a lot of people that we're seeing an increase due to the COVID craziness, I guess we'll call it, for lack of another terminology. People have been locked up, people that haven't socialized because they're not around other people or people don't want to be near them. And I think a lot of that, if you are on the edge, that could push you over the edge. So I think a lot of that has got to do with that. Another part, Tom, is that right now, people are looking at these things more closely. Before, mental illness was something we really didn't look at. We have the police deal with it, or and that was it. Now everybody's looking, and they're sensitive to it. The worst things that can happen is that you have somebody that's a mental illness person, and he puts a gun up to his head, and the officer ends up shooting him and killing him. You know, what are we killing somebody trying to kill himself for?
Right.
And that unfortunately happens because, you know, sometimes we don't know what they're going to do with the gun, or we
Right.
think they're moving or whatever.
Well, it's very quick to go from this to this. right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
so we're trying to avoid those type of things. And if we can, and you know what, it's a pilot program. We're going to run it for a year. But from what I've done, my research and what I've seen, I just wish, if I had a regret, my regret would be that I won't be here this time next year to see how successful the program is.
well, give us a call. We'll have you on with the new chief, and we'll have a conversation about it.
That would be good.
By the way, what do you think of the new chief?
Who is the new chief?
Whoever they didn't they appoint someone like acting?
Acting was my deputy chief, Tony Hawk,
And
he
he's
came
gonna take
back
over-
from retirement.
Okay,
And
so
he
he's going to
came-
kind of take over once you're officially
He's there
gone.
right now. He's there right now. He's a placeholder. He's there for, I think he took a 6-week or 7-week contract until the mayor can do his search and come up with his selection for police chief. Mayor has 2 solid candidates in-house. I think we spent a significant amount of money, and that's something you can look into, on a search, professional group to do the search. You know, that's his choice, obviously. But I think you have 2 phenomenal internal candidates who are ready to kind of step in, and I'm hoping that one of them gets the nod.
Well, you're the guy that would know, right? Because you're the guy who's sat in this job for a long time. You've had a number of tumultuous years over the years. I remember coming out and doing the story on the mold and the leak in the building because the contractor who originally did the building didn't do his job right because he was politically connected and there was all kinds of money going on. But by the way, did anybody ever pay a price for that?
No, I think the mayor dropped that. I don't believe anybody paid anything for that.
That's outrageous.
And I don't know.
Millions of dollars to build a new police station. He didn't do the right job.
Well, I think what ended up happening was that a significant amount of time went by. I think they had taken all of the bonds that were left on the building, and there was really everybody was out of business, so there was nobody to get. So I really can't blame the mayor for that one. But what I can blame him for is that this should have been done. I had a fight with him for over half a dozen years to get that accomplished.
Well, I remember, and it was probably like, maybe 8 years ago when I came down to
it was brutal.
Take pictures, and you were screaming about it 5 years before that.
Absolutely.
And nobody ever did anything about why do these politicians, and you can speak to Jim Ferentini, the mayor, specifically if you want, but in general, why do these politicians get in and allow people to rip the taxpayers off of millions of dollars and then just walk away and do nothing about it?
I mean, it's just and again, it's how things are run, and I'm not to, the big thing I hear is that, the people elected me, so I'm going to do it the way, I want, and when the people aren't happy with me, then they won't elect me anymore. I've heard that for 17 plus years.
Right.
I've been here 18 years, 8 months, and 17 have been under one administration. So, I do respect that to a certain extent. He is responsible for his decisions. Some of them, like I said, if I don't agree with it, then I'm very vocal about it.
I love that about you.
Hiring police officers. I mean, I did a battle with his chief of staff, Ted Van Nall, at one point when he had Ted here over replacing our police cars. And the mayor and I were fighting, and he said, I'm going to send an intermediary down. And he sent Ted down, and we probably had 8 cars with 100,000+ miles on them. They had license plates on holes in the floorboard to keep them. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. And, Ted looked at me and he said, those cars are good for another year. And again, that was another battle.
Right.
But ultimately, we were able to get those cars.
Right.
I have to give the mayor a star for that one.
Well, I give him no star.
No, but then I take it away for all the aggravation
Right,
and the fighting that we had to go through to get there.
You as the chief shouldn't have to be fighting to get cars, to get manpower in a city like Haverhill. Haverhill is like Lawrence in a lot of ways. The gang problem is just as bad in Haverhill now as it is in Lawrence. In fact, it's probably worse now in Haverhill than it is in Lawrence. And you've got a crime problem in Haverhill that is just as bad, or at least similar to Lawrence. And your staffing is not what Lawrence is. I mean, Lawrence is really very well staffed right now, thanks to the new chief and the former mayor Dan Rivera, who gave him the staffing, who gave him the money, and got him the grants. But if you're a police chief in a city like Haverhill, and you don't have the backing of the mayor, and you don't have the backing of the council, you're putting your life on the line every day, and you're using duct tape to do it, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I always ask for more officers when we do the budget, and I don't ask for 25 or 30. I don't do crazy stuff. But, we do always ask for new officers. that causes significant friction with the administration. But it's, my job as the police chief, or the way I view my job as the police chief, is when you do a budget process, it's my responsibility to put down what I believe are those things that we need to be successful at our job.
Right.
So I will put that down. I fully understand that because I put it down doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's my responsibility to at least put it down so that we can have a discussion about it. That also causes significant friction.
Now, you had and I'm not going to use any names because I just don't want the grief from the guy calling me, yelling at me, but you had an elected official who had applied for the police department, didn't get the job, and then started targeting you. How did you deal with that? I mean, when I talk to chiefs across the Merrimack Valley on these kinds of topics, they say it's the one thing they hate the most is when elected officials start targeting them for some political reason, and they just want to do their job.
Right. I will tell you this, that kind of was a feud that kind of brewed probably all the way back to maybe 2004 or 5, and went on for probably close to a decade. And then at one point, we were at serving a Christmas dinner at the Boys and Girls Club, and we got together and started talking, and long and short of it is we kissed and made up.
Yep.
And haven't had any issues since. Matter of fact, he's a reserve officer in Haverhill right now. He was appointed full-time, but there's some issues going on with the mayor with that, and that's something that they'll have to figure out.
Right.
And he's doing a great job, or was when I left.
You touched on something that I talk about a lot in the show, so I want to highlight it a little bit more. When people have a dispute with somebody, the worst thing in the world you can do is talk about them when they're not there. You have to talk to someone. If you've got a problem with someone, you've got a dispute with somebody, 99 times out of 100, you sit two people in a room together and you just have them talk to each other, 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, they're going to be able to resolve it. It's when people don't want to sit down with you, they don't want to talk to you because they know that they're wrong, or vice versa, and they just go out and they're bad-mouthing you to other people, they're throwing roadblocks in your way. Did you get that from others? I only knew about that one case because I know the person.
I mean, in my job, you're always making tough decisions. Everything you do can't make everybody happy. So that happens, but for the most part, I'm not looking for any more enemies, Tom. I had enough enemies in my life, and if there are things I can do to correct some of those confrontations that I've had, then I try to do that. Life's too short to be carrying 50 enemies around all the time.
Right.
I try to do that. Sometimes I can't.
Right.
But I try.
Right. Now that you're retiring, have you given any thought? I know like Methuen's looking for a new police chief. Have you given any thought to like going somewhere else for a little while?
Do you remember when you started this whole thing and you said 44 years?
Yes.
What do you want me to do? 54? Would 60 be enough?
Listen, when a guy like
the white flag is up.
I respect what most people don't respect, and that's life experience. And with someone like you who's gone through 44 years and seen the transition of policing, seen the transition of how you're dealing with the public, seen the difference in the attitudes of the public toward policing, you would be exactly the kind of guy, if I was the mayor of a community, that I would want to come in for maybe 4 or 5 years to stabilize my department, before I can get somebody permanent in there to do the job.
Well, that's what happened here. When I don't think you were with the paper in 2002 when I got hired.
Right, yeah, we started in 04.
But if you go back and look, the articles in Eagle Tribune before I got here, officers threatening other officers, and officers not coming to work, and officers sleeping on the job, and
there was a fist fight in the station one day.
Fighting, officers lying. The city didn't have confidences department. They had issues with prior chiefs, and I came in, and I'm very proud of the fact that as I'm going out the door, we're known as a professional department. We're known to be hardworking. We're known to use technology wisely to assist us in doing our job. I mean, these are all things. Professionalism is important. All our equipment now is top-notch. We don't have license plates stapled to floorboards or anything else. I mean, so we've upgraded this department. Training, we do training all over the country. I send officers for training and have for the last 20 years, 18 years, and I do it with narcotics funds, so it's not costing the tax. Somebody will say, well, that was a great training, but you had to go to Phoenix for that training. Well, yeah, and we used federal forfeiture money to accomplish that mission, so it didn't cost the taxpayer a penny, whether it be a plane ticket, a hotel, a meal, so we've used our drug money wisely to go out and be able to do things or to buy equipment or that type of thing. So training has been a very important part of our job. Customer service, number one. You know, and that's something we pound into every officer from the day they get on the job till the day they leave. If you're not treating people like you want your mom, your grandmother, your sister, or your brother, or your dad treated, then we have a problem. Because everybody needs to be treated with respect and dignity, and your job is to not put a Band-Aid on a problem. It's to resolve the problem. And our officers do that.
Right. How does the federal forfeiture work for most people who probably don't know? Is it when the federal government seizes property, seizes money from drug dealers, they then make it available to the locals, or is it what the locals take in?
What happens with the federal forfeiture program is officers that are assigned to federal task force may be involved in what I call significant federal investigations. It might be a cartel they're looking at, or some type of drug running organization, or some organized crime thing. And what will end up happening is as a result of that investigation, they will seize drugs and proceeds. They may seize money, they may seize cars or jewelry that was gotten with ill-gotten gains. They may seize a house that they were using as a stash house. And what happens is it goes to the federal system. It's a federal arrest. Federal agents go to court. The U.S. Attorney's Office will petition the judge for a forfeiture. The judge will then rule on that forfeiture and say there's 10 departments involved. When everything's all done, you might get 1%, 2%, 3% of whatever is left. And that's how federal forfeiture works.
So it's not coming from the taxpayers. It is coming from the bad guys, which is good. I think it's actually ingenious to take criminals' money and use it to help police departments because...
How many cars I bought? I bought so many police cars, detective cars, unmarked cars, with that type of money because we don't have, we just don't have the means. If I'm going to fight for something, it's going to be, employees. I'm not going to try to really draw the line in the sand on things I could buy with forfeiture money.
Is there any restriction as to what you can do with it?
Yeah, there's a number of restrictions. I mean, you can't hire full-time employees with it, and you can't supplant your regular budget items. For instance, the mayor cannot come to me or council can't come to me and say, I see that we're putting 5 police cars in the budget to replace. Use forfeiture money. They're not allowed to do that. It's the way the statute's written is it's under control of the police chief, so that's a good thing.
What was your favorite part of the 44 years of being a police officer or being a police chief in Haverhill?
Oh, in Haverhill, I would say one of probably the most satisfying things for me is just watching the transformation of this agency from when I came. And there was a joke when I came here. You would ask somebody if it was Monday, you'd say what day it is. They'd say Tuesday. And we don't have that type of mentality anymore. Our officers are very upfront and honest. They're very ethical. And for me, if I have to leave a stamp someplace I've been, that's the stamp I want to leave.
Right.
That people can walk in that front door of the police station, and they're confident that they're going to get the type of service that they deserve. So
I'm looking at your crime stats that we published last month in the Valley Patriot, thanks to Eric Spagnoli, our fine intern reporter. And according to this, you had just total crimes overall, total of the Tier 1 crimes, you had 1,366 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1,421, last year, 1,225. So it's going down. So obviously you guys are doing something right, or is that the national trend?
Well, I mean, the trend is down, but there are departments that are up. I never...
Yeah, obviously Minneapolis is up.
Right. I mean, one of the things, and a big thing is that, I never take credit for the crime stats because they're unpredictable. And what we do is we have strategies in place to address crime. But you never know. I mean, for instance, you could have a heroin addict go out, and we've had this happen, and it'll take us 2 or 3 days to catch him, and he does 4 burglaries or robberies in those 2 or 3 days. And the stats go crazy, especially with robberies. I mean, you might have 8 robberies for the year, and all of a sudden in February, you got a guy strung out, and he hits 4 gas stations, or he hits the 7-Eleven, and right away, and that happens on occasion. So you got to be very careful with how you kind of interpret numbers as to how they work. So what I try to do, and here's the thing, Tom, I could get up and I could tell you, some people will put out press releases, crime is down for the last 10 years in Haverhill and 32% overall. If your son or daughter's bicycle was stolen off the porch last week, does that mean anything to you?
Not a thing.
So, I mean, I don't believe in doing that. Okay. I mean, I brag about our officers.
You're literally the only chief I've had on here that has said that. that it says that you don't take any credit at all for the crime numbers.
I don't take any credit for the great work our officers do either. I mean, that's all them. It's not me. I mean, it's them. I mean, we've had officers that, train stops. Last stop in the Haverhill from Boston, a weekend night. Couples on the train. They must have been drunk. They fell asleep. Last stop, they wake you up, get off. Phones are dead. They got no money. They got no credit cards. An officer goes in his pocket, calls an Uber, and gets them back to Andover. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've had officers take money out of their pocket, put people in hotels that are homeless, buy them meals. I mean, and those aren't things that I've instructed them to do.
Right.
These are things they do because they have a servant's heart and they want to see these things accomplished.
And these aren't the things you see on CNN either, right? Because on CNN, cops are jackbooted thugs who gun people down for fun, especially black people.
Right.
We had a short conversation, I think, the last time you were here about this whole narrative about police officers and the Black Lives Matter situation. Now that you're on your way out the door, you're, I think, a little bit more free. What are you thinking about all this stuff? Is it really as bad as people like me make it out to be? Because I make it out to be pretty bad.
I'm not in their position, so it's hard for me to tell you what they experience, what they feel. But what I can tell you is that what happens in Minneapolis or what happened in South Carolina or some of these other places is not indicative of police officers across the country, especially Massachusetts. Massachusetts is the new police reform, I believe, is tougher than what Minnesota did for the whole state. Massachusetts is tougher. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I don't get it. I mean, we haven't had those problems here.
Right. And,
it's very frustrating. We're having a hard time recruiting officers. We're having a hard time keeping officers because, you kind of get downtrodden after a while.
Sure.
You feel beat up. And, we want people that are in here that want to do their job, that aren't afraid to do their job because they're going to get sued for something, even if they're right, type of thing. So it's made it a big challenge for us.
How hard is it? Because I have a lot of friends who are cops, and they complain about this all the time. Everywhere these cops go, someone's got a camera phone. And everything that they do, and when the camera phone goes on, it's usually not when the guy's punching them in the face. It's usually when they're punching the guy back in self-defense. And is that something that's frustrated you over the last few years? Because it seems like all my cop friends are really upset about it.
Well, it's something that we've had to get used to. I mean, 20 years ago, there was no, people weren't walking around with camera phones and all kinds of stuff. But now, and the good thing is that we have a new generation of police officers. I think I've hired over 70 police officers since I've been there. And I'd say in the last 4 years, I've probably hired 35 or 40. And this generation grew up with the phone in their hands. They grew up with the cell phone. They grew up with the camera. They grew up with texting. So for them, it's second nature. They understand it and they work with it. Mm-hmm. For salty dog like me, who really never grew up with a camera in my face all the time, it's a little, unnerving, because you want to make sure that the whole story gets out. And as you know, the whole story almost never gets out.
You did the one thing, you committed the one, and I still like you because you're my friend, but you committed the one sin that I can't forgive.
Let me guess. Can I guess?
Sure, go ahead.
Transcription on my radio.
Yes, encrypting.
Oh, what a surprise. How did I figure that one out?
Do you regret that?
I do not regret it for officer safety reasons. That was why we did it. When we started showing up at search warrants and they had scanners listening to our radio, that was a concern because then they're prepared for you when you come. And if they're deciding they're going to fight, it could be a death.
But didn't you already have a scrambled channel for such things? Every department has a scrambled channel for the detectives if they're going in to do a raid. If they're
that was another battle. I spent over, I would say, close to $1 million replacing our antiquated radio system, and that was a 5-year battle. I mean, the system didn't even work half the time. It was falling apart.
I'll take that over an encryption.
So we got the new system, but that comes with the encryption. The whole thing came together. It was a package. So we ended up getting a Marty Meehan, I believe, was the congressman at the time, and we even got an appropriation for about $300,000 to replace the radios, because radios has nothing to do with your back end.
Right.
So, I mean, we were able to do the whole thing, get it replaced. Eventually, I think the fire department got theirs replaced, but I mean, it was necessary. There's the biggest chief nightmare for any police chief is having to knock on somebody's door and tell their husband or wife that they're not coming home, especially if it's something that they could have prevented by scrambling a radio.
Right.
And again, you don't know that that's the case, but you know what? For me, I sleep better at night.
I still go back to every department had a scramble channel. Lawrence had 3 scramble channels. So that if they, for example, if they get a call and someone calls and says there's a party next door, it's too loud, they show up, and when they show up, there's no music. They go, oh, they must have had a scanner. Then they get a second call and they go back and they can hear them turning it down as they're pulling it up because they got a scanner.
Right.
The third time you go to the scramble channel and say all cars get to this address, they don't know you're coming back again. So there's no need for the encryption. It seems to me that public safety seemed like it was an excuse for something else.
Okay, but just let's use the example you just gave.
Sure.
Do you know how much manpower you just wasted? 3 times to the same call? Mm-hmm. We like to go, and that's what we express upon our officers, go once, handle a call. Mm-hmm. But if I'm going and it's shut down, then I got to go back again and it's shut down, then I got to go a third time, I don't have the manpower for that.
What about the transparency issue? I don't want to belay this.
Oh, no, that's okay.
We don't agree, but I know there's a lot of people
Sure.
out there who might agree with you or me. What about the transparency issue? As a member of the public, as a member of the press, I want to know what our local cops are doing. We're hearing all over the country on CNN and every channel that the cops are a bunch of jackbooted thugs. They're out there abusing their authorities. And at the same time, you're putting cameras out in the neighborhoods to watch what's going on in the neighborhoods.
Right.
We can't watch you. We can't supervise you as our employees, as our representatives. We can't follow what you're doing on regular calls to know, where you guys are and what you're doing.
Sure you can. You just can't do it real time. You can FOIA request anything. You can FOIA request our transmissions, our cameras. You have the ability to do that. You just can't do it real time, which I understand, for a news person, a news reporter, that's inconvenient because you want to be able to go while it's going on.
Right.
So I understand that. But as far as the general public is concerned, they have the ability. There is transparency there. It might not be convenient transparency,
right,
but there is a level of transparency that is available.
What about the idea of taking your calls and putting them online, like after they're done? Like, say every 5 hours you post your radio calls from the last 5 hours, so that people like me, at least for tomorrow's news, can go, okay, well, there was a shooting we know on Lafayette Street, and we don't know what happened. But a few hours from now, I can go on, I can listen to the call, I can listen to what happened, and I can write a news story and inform the public.
So you do get our daily logs, right? I mean, they email them right to you. All you do is get on the list. We send you our daily log with all our calls.
That'd be great.
We do that.
That's great. For transparency's sake, that's great.
We even do it for shoddy papers. So
okay,
we'll,
all right.
We'll be happy to, get you on the list of accurate reporting papers.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't think he's ever complained about the accuracy of our papers before, though.
I have not.
No,
I have not.
Very good.
You guys are very accurate.
We've always tried, and anytime anybody's called us and said, gee, we think you maybe get something wrong, and it doesn't happen that often, we always look into it. If we're wrong, we'll correct it. Because the only thing I really care about is that my readers have the right information, and that they know if we give them something that turns out to be wrong, we will correct it, as opposed to the Tribune and some of the other papers where they get something so blatantly wrong that it's actually like harmful to somebody, and even when you show them that they're wrong, they don't.
Right.
How long has that been up that says time's up? I'm sorry.
It just went up.
It just went
Okay,
up.
all right.
You're okay.
Just went up.
You can wind down.
A couple of minutes, yes?
If you need, yeah.
Okay. You
That wasn't a happy look on her face.
I get you. So
I'm always happy. No.
as you're going, what do you want to do from here on in? What is it that you're looking to do? I mean, I'm sure, like, when I retire, I want to be on a beach somewhere in the Bahamas.
Right.
A lot of guys who are police officers say they want to do that, but they end up going into consulting and other stuff.
I mean, right now, I want to take about 6 months and decompress.
Right.
Because, your stress level goes from here, and you don't even realize it, to here.
Right.
And I want to enjoy that for 6 months. And then at that point, I'll figure out, if I'm antsy. I hope I'm not. 44 years, I don't know that I want to work anymore, but we'll see.
Right.
Maybe I'll volunteer. Maybe I'll go work at a church in a food kitchen 2 days a week, or, a food bank or something else. But I'm definitely not looking for another full-time job. So, I mean, and even part-time, it would have to be, if I did something part-time, would have to be my days, my hours when I wanted to do it type of thing. And those jobs aren't jumping off the tree right at you.
Right,
so
right.
I don't anticipate, really finding something unless something just drops in my lap. But I want at least the 6 months, Tom. I need to.
Yeah, you need it. Go fishing. Go lay on a beach somewhere.
I want to see all the national parks and do stuff like that. I mean, this is a great country, and there's so many things to see here. Forget about going to Europe. I mean, go check our country out first.
Sure.
So I'd like to do that and see what happens. Maybe then I'll put my toes in the sand.
Yeah, but please,
try that out.
and hopefully you'll come back, right?
Sure.
We want you to come back to talk about stuff because as things happen, we know we'll be able to ask you. You'll give us a real answer.
I could be your expert witness.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Is there anything you want to leave the people of Haverhill with? We shared this on Haverhill 411, and hopefully a lot of people will jump in later on. I know during the day they usually don't, but we get a lot of people watch afterwards. Is there anything that you want the residents, as you're leaving, is there anything you want the Haverhill residents to know about the safety of their community, the dangerousness of their community? What their biggest fear should be as for crime in Haverhill or not?
Well, I think we'll take it full circle. I think right now is a unique time in Haverhill because there's a new police chief that's going to be appointed. And I think the public needs to demand, want, and monitor that they're going to get a police chief who is not a yes man or a bobblehead.
Right.
You need somebody who is going to, when it needs to be said, is going to say those tough, uncomfortable things, whether it be to council, the mayor, the paper, whoever, that, gets the point across for the public, for the officers, for the elected officials. He needs to be able to do that. If you put somebody in there who is just going to be a yes man, I truly fear that the department will start slipping backwards.
It falls apart quickly when you've got somebody in there that's just...
The officers lose respect and faith also. I think
Right.
one of the reasons that I've been successful is the officers might not always agree with me, especially if I discipline somebody, but they know I'm not in anybody's pocket.
Right.
And they know that I'm going to, if the dog died, I'm going to tell you the dog died.
Right.
No offense, not anything. This dog over here.
We love Murphy.
He's referencing the studio dog Murphy, my dog.
My
Sorry.
last question is this because we're way over time. In Methuen, they commissioned a study of the police department. They commissioned an audit, like a management audit of the police department. When the management audit the mayor of Methuen didn't give him the benefit of any doubt and call him in and ask him to go over the report to see what's right about this. Maybe it's something that they got wrong. There's a reasonable explanation for it. And it also seemed like that report seemed to be all based on what the officers told them, right? How they felt about certain things and what they thought about certain things. Was that fair? Was that something that you would put up with if you were a police chief and your mayor was going to go by a report but wouldn't even listen to what you had to say about what might be right or wrong in the report and then put you on leave and
Here's the thing, and I really can't speak on Methuen because I don't work there, but from my experience, what I see when a study is commissioned, it would be, for instance, if Tom Duggan Incorporated hired a commission to do a study for you because you're having a problem with a particular employee, they're going to basically craft that study around what you want said and done.
Exactly.
Because you're paying them,
Right.
and then when they want to get another job in another city, that mayor or city manager or council is going to say, I'd like to see some of your work.
Right.
And if that work doesn't support what they sent you for in the first
wanted.
place, they don't want you to come in and say, oh, you know what, by the way, yeah, there's some things wrong here, but only 30% of them are the chief's responsibility. 70% you can't hold them for. They don't want to hear that.
Right.
They want it piled on so that their position is cemented and they can, in their minds, righteously do what they want to do.
Right.
So I don't have a lot of faith and confidence in the whole, we're going to come in and do a chief study. If the chief is that bad, the chief is that bad, and you don't need a study.
Right.
You don't need a study.
Right.
Just take them out.
I think what bothered me was the chief was called into the mayor's office. The mayor of Lawrence, of all people, was sitting there. The mayor asked him to turn over his gun, put him on leave. And most mayors would maybe call the chief in and say, let's go over the report first. Let's find out what information in here. Maybe there's something in here that can be explained. Maybe there's something in here that's not your responsibility. Go over it, and then that way get down to what's actually wrong.
Have you seen the
report? So you can fix it. I have seen the report.
Because I haven't seen it.
It's horrible.
So I don't know, but I mean...
But there's a lot of stuff in there that's not real.
My big thing is it's very unconventional to have another mayor or another police chief from another city sitting in that room. when you're doing that
Right.
type of stuff. I don't know what the thought process was or the mindset. I'm sure it was a very difficult situation, not only for the city, but for Joe himself. And, I kind of feel for him for that.
I feel for the Lawrence chief that got called into something that has nothing to do with Lawrence in that awkward situation.
Oh, it's horrible.
But that's just a failure of leadership on what I think.
Well, yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Excellent. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. You're a good guy, man. I appreciate it. Alan DeNaro, he's the retiring police chief in Haverhill, Massachusetts. If you follow Haverhill 411, thank you for joining us. We've shared it on the page. If you've got any questions for the chief, send me an email. I'll be happy to pass it along to him. We'll try and get it answered for you. And, of course, because of this interview, we're going to write up a story about some of the answers that we got, and that'll be in the next Valley Patriot. You're going to roll that up, Chrissy, I think. We're way over time. I never got a chance to thank my sponsors, so I'll thank them during the Melvin Taylor song. I want to thank McLennan Real Estate, Century 21 on Broadway in Methuen. We also love AFC Urgent Care in North Andover and Methuen. We love Lisa Williams. She will be back in the next couple of weeks. Marsan and Son Construction. Now's the time. It's really nice out. Call Marsan and Son Construction for all your construction needs. EIS Investigation and Gun Training. Borelli's Deli, where I'm going right after the show. Actually, not right after the show, because right after the show, I'm going to Tomo's to get some sushi right down the street, and it's right across from Happy Crab. Free plug for them. Angelo over there at A&M Auto Body, a free plug for him. Teddy Fairburn, workers' compensation attorney in Methuen. Give him a call. If you don't have the number, send me an email. I'll give you his number. HS Investigations. And my buddy, Dave Consoli at Pleasant Valley Landscaping. He's not taking any new business until January unless it's a small construction project. But they're supporting the show, and we love him for it. Alan DeNaro, retiring police chief, thanks for coming in again.
Thank you for having me.
Chrissy, my fine producer, you did a great job again as usual.
Thank you.
Sounded like Melvin Taylor said we got to go home, so go home already.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.